Okay, so we were talking about PVC. PVC is a polymer. What is a polymer? It is something which we put in all the desirable things, or we make things which we know we can get what we want, and then we get a final product. Okay, so that is the biggest thing about polymers. One of the most common things, common polymers is PVC. So we call these as modern materials because most of the other materials have been used for a very long time. Okay, now when I say most of the materials, what are these materials? We talk about stone, we talk about bricks, we talk about even mortar, we talk about lime mortar in this case. Okay, lime mortar has been there for a very long time. Because of problems in lime mortar, because you cannot work with lime mortar very conveniently, we got cement. Essentially, if you see cement also, it is something which is lime based. Okay, lime means that limestone or calcium carbonate and all its derivatives. Nowadays, in the recent past, we have found so many materials which we can use to get desired properties. Okay, they are very light. For instance, if you look at the composites used for airplanes, you can understand what I am talking about. Even the materials, like the iron, whatever we used to use, say even 50 years ago or 100 years ago, is not the same. So if you remember the bridge which was shown in the video, which was made of cast iron, the very first bridge, it was just called the iron bridge. The iron bridge had cast iron which had properties which are not very good by today's standard. Today's standard, the materials are so strong that it's really, you cannot make a comparison at all. In fact, I was looking at the world's largest arch bridge, which has been constructed in China. So there they are using huge cables to keep the arch profile. It's not pushing against a rock, but it's just a self-straining mechanism. It means by itself it can stand. You can just lift it up. It doesn't require a foundation. Literally, that's what we mean by such a system. So these fibers are very, very strong. So these are what we call as new materials. Okay, whatever is in the old, whatever is there which has been used traditionally, had its drawbacks. So now we try to bring in materials which do not have those drawbacks. So basically, we were looking at PVC. So what is that? It is nothing but long chain of that vinyl chloride, which we put in various forms. We get a desired properties and then we go ahead with it. Okay. In this class, we are going to look at some more composite materials. Okay. What is a composite material? Composite material is a material which is made of more than one element. Can you think of any composite material? Any composite material which is being used in today's day-to-day affairs? Okay, steel, you can say yes, it is a kind of a composite because you add a lot of things to it. And particularly when you look at composites, we look at material like reinforced cement concrete, where you put another material. Concrete is called material A and you say other thing as material B. Together they got a different property altogether. Another material I like to remind you, it is neoprene. Do you remember neoprene? Where is neoprene used, at least by my lecture? Sorry? Expansion joint, okay, yes, that's one. But other one was in the, it was used in the railway sleepers, where you keep thin announcement or what? Hey, come later, yeah, come later, please. Yeah. So, when we are looking at composite material for as neoprene, what happens is you got metal layers sandwiched between rubber. So, in this class, we are going to look at such materials. Please remember, today the number of materials available is infinite. Literally. For instance, if you go to look at roof waterproofing, simple thing. The number of compounds available are mind-boggling. Think of a simple material like paint. You go to Asian Paints, he'll give you at least 6 or 7 different things. They got rubber-based paints. Then there's the usual distemper. In between this, you got so many things, and you can get so many types of finishes. Okay, so this is what we are talking about today. This is what we are talking about today. We are having, when I say we are having a lot of materials, this is what I mean. When we are talking about composite materials, first and foremost, we are going to look at something which, and in this case, I am only looking at fiber-based composites. We are looking at fiber-based composites. In the previous one, we were looking at polymers. Okay, here it's one step further. You might not get the desirable qualities within the fiber itself. Within the fiber, you will not get the desirable properties. For instance, we will talk about the sheets, the plastic sheets which we use. Okay, by itself the profile has a shape, has a strength. By this I mean, if you have a piece of paper, it will span, but what happens? It bends. However, if you bend it into V shape, what happens? The same paper is able to span a much larger distance without any deflection. So the shape has given some strength. But then we find that the shape alone is not able to give the strength which we like. So what we do is we reinforce these polymers with some fibers. Okay, so these fibers should be strong. These fibers have to be stiff, and usually they are mixed in the polymer resin. Usually they are mixed in the polymer resin, and then they are allowed to set. So this is what we are talking about in this class. So what do you mean by strong? When we say a material is strong, what does it mean? A strong material will take much larger force before it breaks. Strong material takes a very large force before it breaks. Next, what is meant by a stiff material? A stiff material will bend very less, or will deflect or deform very less for a given load. Okay, and then I will add one more thing, it is not here. What is a brittle material? We are only talking about construction materials in this class. These are all material properties. So when I say what is a strong material, you know it can take a lot of load. So it says a stiff material. Which one? Brittle. Okay, actually brittle is the reverse. A brittle material will undergo very less deformation before it breaks. For instance, you got a teacup. Teacup is also a strong material. You cannot break it just like that. For example, you are having a steel bar like that, and also you are having a teacup. I am now starting to apply force. What happens? The steel cup, the steel saucer will be able to bend a lot before it breaks. On the other hand, the coffee cup will break without any warning. So this is the difference between a brittle material and a elastic material. Okay, elastic material will have a lot of deformation. So strong, stiff, brittle. Brittle means it's not weak. By no means a brittle material is weak. Just that it will break very suddenly, like a biscuit. Just like that it will break. Okay. So now the polymers. Okay, the strength of the polymers. If suppose you are going to add another material into the polymer resin, these are the things which make a difference. Okay, the constituent properties and the microstructural configuration. Now, the constituent properties of the polymer itself has a impact on the overall strength, and also the microstructural configuration. What do you mean by the microstructural configuration? The micro even on an atom, on a scale of the atom, there is an attraction for these materials which make a very big difference. Some materials will be like an impurity which causes the atoms to probably repel each other or go away from each other, and thereby reducing the strength also. So this is what we mean by the microstructural configuration also. Okay. So these are all parameters which are going to determine the overall performance of the material. So when you look at the strength of composites, okay, how does the strength of a composite material come? When you are going to have a composite material, you are having a material which is very soft. Typically, the polymer is like your rubber, it's very soft. But the material which you add inside it is much stronger, which is much tougher. And this is what gives the strength to the overall structure of the end product. Okay. In this case, what we are talking about, the composite material. The end composite material is going to have its strength because of two things. Okay. First, there is a low modulus matrix. What do you mean by a low modulus matrix? It's a matrix which is going to deflect even for a very small force. Okay, and it is reinforced with a material which is having a much higher modulus, just like your neoprene pad. Neoprene pad is reinforced with a steel plate. Okay, steel plate, or so the steel plate. How is this steel plate? If you compare, the steel plate is going to deform much lesser for the given load when compared to the neoprene pad. Okay, so when both of these are sandwiched together, when they act as one, you are going to find out that the amount of load which they are going to take is much higher. Okay, so the result, the end product is something which is much higher. And usually what happens is the low modulus material is also a very cheap material. To make that material in that particular shape, it is going to be very cheap. Okay, so how do we finally get a product? We do two things. We first choose the right fiber. So we are having two types of fibers, the crystalline fiber and the amorphous fiber. What is a crystalline material? What is amorphous material? I am sure you remember crystalline is something which has a structure. For example, you will remember diamond. Okay, diamond has a very nice crystal structure, and they also say amorphous is something which is not predictable, which is not having a particular shape. It is something like a powder. Okay, amorphous is powder. So depending on the application, you may get a fiber from amorphous materials also. Okay, or it can be something with a crystalline material also. The most important thing is the alignment of the fibers. How you align the fibers will determine the strength. As an example, I will ask you to recollect that example of the rock. You remember how easily the rock broke when the plane of weakness was attacked. Okay, in the same way here, instead of what we will have as the plane of weakness is, if the fiber is all aligned under one direction. For example, you just imagine all the fibers are along the length. That means if you pull along the width of the rubber band, okay, just imagine there is a rubber sheet, you are keeping some steel wires along the length. I am pulling along the length of that rubber sheet. Will it break? It's very difficult to make it break. On the other hand, if I am going to pull it the other side, what happens? So this is what we mean by saying that the fibers have to be aligned in the correct direction. So if suppose you know that strength is required only in one plane, so it's sufficient that you align the fibers in that correct direction. There is also one more very important thing. If you are going to go, the fibers what we are talking about is not necessarily on the scale of what you can see. It's not a physical coconut fiber sort or jute fiber. It's not necessarily like that. It can be a fiber which is on a microscopic scale also. For this reason only we have the last point. If you are going to align it correctly, if you are going to align these fibers correctly, because of the correct intermolecular attraction of forces between the fibers, you may even get the overall strength better. Okay, the overall strength of the material could also be increased. I am going to just take two very common fibers which are being used in our industry. Our industry is civil engineering. Okay, so in our industry we usually use glass fiber and another is the carbon fiber. So we are just going to restrict ourselves to these two fibers. So what we do is we melt glass in a huge furnace, we draw them out through a die. In fact, this is the way even most of the wires are manufactured, including your steel reinforcement rod. It's made to just come out of a very small hole, it's continuously drawn, and in this case they got what is known as this platinum bushings. Then when it is drawn through that bush, it is then made into it comes as a strand. What is a strand? It's just like one small hair, okay, just like a hair it's coming. Then what we do is, that is not going to have enough strength, we now put it into a strand. So strand is nothing but just like how you weave the hair, okay, you would have seen your mother weave her hair. Same way you weave this into a strand. Once you make it in that fashion, it's going to be very, very strong. Okay, please think of the jute wire or plastic wire which you have for your tying the cloth line. How is it made? How is that jute thing? You will find that it's made of very small individual strands which are wound tightly to each other. The same thing is happening for these glass fibers. So the end product is much stronger. And is this possible to bend this glass fiber? Huh? Yes. You have your optic fiber, right? What is optic fiber? It's nothing but one of the glass fibers only. It can also be bent. But usually what we do in this case, depending on the application, we will just spray it as small fibers in a matrix. For example, even inside concrete, if you want, you can add it and increase strength. Of course, this is not being used in concrete, but for most of the polymers, most of the other polymers, we use this glass fiber. Okay. So these are some of the glass which is being used. Okay. So basically, if you look at it, we are only going to use this E-glass in polyester thing, or this zirconia glass fibers, okay, in concrete. Other things are the other ways by which this glass fiber is classified. So now we have this other thing is carbon fiber. So carbon fiber is got by destructive distillation of coal. Okay, so this is one of those chemical processes which you would have studied definitely in your this destructive distillation. What is destructive distillation? You would have definitely gone through. So especially you will remember that coal tar is done by destructive distillation of coal. So this carbon fiber is also done in that way only. But the only difference is here you use some precursor materials. What is this precursor materials? Precursor materials are the fundamental materials or the materials from whom, on which basis we make the product. In this case it is carbon fiber. Carbon fiber is made just like how you make your shirt, I mean this cloth or textile. It is woven into this pattern. Okay. Now one of the benefits of carbon fiber is it is stable at high temperatures. Okay, it is stable at high temperatures. So this is how they classify type 1, type 2 and type 3. So type 1 you can go even up to 2000 degrees and it's not going to get affected. Type 2 is around 1500. Here we are saying stiffest and highest modulus of elasticity. Please remember, what is a stiff material? Stiff material, it deforms very less for a given load. Okay. So strong, it can take a lot of force. Okay. So if you are calling a material a fibrous material, these are some of the minimal parameters which it has to satisfy. First and foremost, it should be made of more than 2 faces. It should be made of more than 2 faces. I'm sorry, it's actually composite. Okay, fiber composite. If I'm going to be very specific, characteristic of fiber composites, it should be of 2 faces. What are the 2 faces? It will be your resin base and then you have your fiber. Then you combine the both the materials, and then what you get? You get a material of the desired properties. So the desired properties can be anything. Then you will find that you will also, you should compulsorily have enhancement of some property from the original. Okay, mostly whenever you add this fiber, you will be only looking at strength property. When you are adding the fiber, You are only focusing upon increasing the strength. Okay. Now I don't know how many of you are here working with ASC, American Society of Civil Engineers. I don't know how many of you volunteered or went for that whatever that interview where you get it through. But if you have gone through, you can, or you otherwise you can ask your friends. There was some fiber which was added to the boat. There was a fiber added to the boat. What was that fiber which was added to make the ferrocement boat stronger? That ferrocement boat is an ideal example of this composite. First and foremost, they used a mat. Okay, that was not it was not this ordinary like any material. It was a very strong polymer based material. So they used that as the reinforcement. That was a reinforcement in two directions. It just looks like a mesh, like a chicken wire mesh or your jali for your mosquitoes, no, what you put. It's just like that. Then on top of that, in the concrete mix itself, when they are doing the concrete mix, they added a fiber. They added a fiber, and that was made into panels, which finally made the canoe. Okay, so now you can just go and ask them what this material was. So what happens when you add these fibers normally? If you are going to add it to a material like concrete, as we know, it is very weak in tension. So this will act as a micro reinforcement, so that all your thermal effects, all your there are other things like because of the heat of hydration, we told cracks can form, right? So all those things can be reduced when you go for micro reinforcement, and this is being done by fibers. Finish scratching. He talks to his leg also here so nicely. Right. Now, what do you do, or how do you choose a fiber? How do you choose a fiber? See, these are the parameters which you will have to know whenever you go to specify a fiber. Now I am going to go a little deeper into probably concrete. Till now I was only talking about polymers. Okay, I know that many of you are very keen on doing work on concrete. Okay, so now if you look at it, these are the things which you will be talking about. You will be talking about the diameter, you will be talking about the length. Then you have another thing called aspect ratio, where you say length versus diameter. Okay, these parameters, and then of course the first two parameters will help you in your modeling. Normally what happens in a project, when you do a project, you have a theoretical part and then you have a practical part. So when you do your theoretical part, you will say you will model it in a software probably. Okay, now nowadays most of the people go for some software or the other to get their calculations done. They don't do the calculations by themselves. They don't do the long way. So when they do it, they'll have to specify what this aspect ratio is. Okay, sometimes you will be doing a scale model also. You will be doing like a canoe, and then you may want to make a ship like Titanic. Okay, now what happens in this? The properties may not be like, if suppose this is 10 kilonewton strong, the Titanic may not be 1000 kilonewton strong in under all circumstances. It may be weaker, sometimes it may even be stronger. Okay, so when you are making this assumption, okay, this aspect ratio usually comes into the picture. Okay, how this behaves in your scale model, and also how this behaves in the big model. That is one way of looking at it. Another thing is, it will help you determine the dosage, or how much it is distributed within your mass. If suppose you have a very big mass, if you are having a very big column or beam, you might prefer to have a material which is having larger aspect ratio. However, if it is much smaller like a canoe, you would like to choose a particle which is a fiber which is having lower aspect ratio. Okay, so this is the significance of the aspect ratio. Then you have the volume fraction of the composite. Okay, how much volume? It doesn't mean that if you are simply adding more amount of the fiber, your end material is going to be stronger. Okay, if you keep adding fiber, there's no guarantee that the end product is going to be stronger. Okay, so because of yes, so because of that reason, you need to identify the ideal volume fraction. You need to identify the ideal volume fraction. If you add much more than a particular level, it is not going to be beneficial. Why is it very important that we have to look at this parameter? The fiber, whatever you are using, they are all very costly materials. If you are dosing in very small quantities itself, the performance of the material which you are dosing it in is going to increase. Okay, so we need to identify the correct volume fraction of the composite for benefit. Then the last thing, I think you will understand fiber orientation. What is this fiber orientation? The wrong orientation of fiber may make it even weaker than what you want it to be. So this is something which is about the fiber orientation. In fact, excuse me, if you go near the badminton court or near opposite the hydraulic slab, there's a badminton court in GDN. One canoe is there which is broken into two parts. So when asked, they told that the reinforcement orientation was wrong. Okay, and that is the reason why it broke. So this is just one example of something which has happened. Okay, so if you are going to go and do a project or something, okay, in this field, if you are going to do a project in this field, these are some of the things which you will be looking at. These are some of the things you will be looking at. You will be looking at the matrix and the fiber and the way the fiber behaves. Okay, so that is these are the assumptions that you will do. First and foremost, you will say that a composite material need not be truly elastic. Okay, composites are made of more than one material, but then we are making the assumption that the end material is going to be elastic. The second thing is the bond between the fiber and the matrix is perfect, which is not always true. What does this mean? If a fiber is very close to another the parent material, if the parent material moves by 1 micrometer, the same 1 micrometer is going to be transferred also to the fiber. Okay, that means the bond is 100%. It is fully sticking. Okay, so but you have to make this assumption. If you don't make this assumption, you can't make a mathematical model. Okay, so then the third one is it is actually what they call as isotropy. It means that the material property is the same in all directions. If you don't make that assumption, you are not going to be able to do the analysis. You can't generate the mathematical model. Now, what do you mean by isotropic? What do I mean by saying the material properties are the same in all directions? If suppose I am pulling if you are having an eraser, I am pulling it by one direction and I am also pulling it by the other direction. So the amount by which it will get elongated should be proportional in all directions. Okay, so this means the elastic properties is the same in all directions. Okay, but in reality it need not happen. But for the purpose of mathematical simplification, we make this assumption. Okay, and we also say that the fibers are arranged in regular repeating arrays, because if you do that only, you will be again able to put it inside a mathematical equation. Okay, what is this mathematical equation I am talking about? See, in next semester when you do your strength of materials, normally strength of materials is a first year, first course. I don't think you are taking strength of materials. Okay, so I will just give you one very simple relationship. There is something called Young's modulus. Okay, there is a thing called Young's modulus. What does this Young's modulus say? Whenever you pull a material, okay, the amount it will deflect is a constant. It means if I pull by 1 kilogram, 1 centimeter deflection will be there. If I pull by 2 kilogram, 2 centimeter deflection is there. However, he is given one constraint, it should be within elastic limits. So if it is within elastic limits, this push and pull are constant. It means if I know a material, if I know the value of Young's modulus, if I know the deflection, will I be able to tell the force? Hey, come on guys. Young's modulus is known. So Young's modulus is nothing, it is the constant of proportionality between push and the amount of change in length. So it is that proportionality constant, that's all. So once you know two parameters, you can easily calculate the third parameter. Okay. So this is a very, very simple one dimension relationship. One dimension relationship. When you go for your strength of materials class, you will be doing two dimensional analysis. You will get one more parameter called the Poisson's ratio. Okay, but once you do that, now you got two equations and you got two unknowns. Deflection in the other direction, so it's stuff like that. Or you get the deflection in two directions, you can find the forces in the other two, because you got two equations and two unknowns. When you go even one step further, okay, when you go for an advanced course, you will find that there are three equations and three unknowns, because for defining an object in space, how many coordinates you require? X, Y and Z. Okay, so this is a very basic idea of whatever I am talking about in terms of whatever I am talking about, this assumptions in analysis. So actually speaking, I was about to get some of the equations which relate this between all these forces and deformations. But I know that you have not done your course in strength of materials. Please don't think this is a very difficult thing. Strength of materials is a no-brainer. In fact, physics itself you would have learned stress, right? For the matter of physics, how many of you have heard the term Young's modulus? In physics, 10th or plus 2? Yeah, plus 2 level at least, many of you would have done. It's a no-brainer. Okay. But for those of you who have not done it, or for those of you who have done it and forgotten it, Young's modulus is nothing but within the elastic limit, stress is proportional to strain, and stress is nothing but it's a measure of the amount of force which is there inside the material. Okay. So I am stopping this lecture with this point. However, I want people to ask a few questions now from what we saw today. I will very quickly rush through the slides. I am not going to talk when the slides are being made. You can stop me at any of these slides and ask questions. Okay? Okay, this slide I can stay on. Okay, fine. Any specific doubts in any of these slides? Okay, in Cal, you are supposed to be learning a lot outside the classroom. Okay, these are nothing but a very brief outline. It's a very brief outline which we are giving to you. Okay. You need to take a little effort and go and do a lot of reading. You need to do a lot of reading. So what are you going to read? The reference books which are given to you is more than sufficient. In addition to that, please go through the Indian standards. Okay, go through the Indian standards on materials. And today evening, okay, by the time you around 7 or 8 o'clock, please open your FFCS login. One link will be given to you. Those of you who are in my survey class, they know the link already. In fact, you will be already registered into this building material, construction materials course. So, and also you will find out that there are some groups set up. Those of you who have sent the groups, you have been already assigned a group. If you have not sent in, a random group has been given to you. Okay. So, I again wanted to try to give that virtual tour of the cement plant, but now it's too late. We will do it some other day. Okay. I keep trying to make my lectures a little short. I keep trying to make very few things, but I don't know how many of you are able to understand what is being told, or how many of you are not able to understand what is being told. I will not ask you to raise your hands. I'll request you to please either send in a mail or come and meet me or tell where you are finding difficulty. Most of these are things, and how many of you feel that whatever is being told is already known? That is also another thing, because I know that all these things are known. In case anybody is here who says these are things which I mean, like these are things which I know already, I like you to also raise your hand. But again, it's very difficult to make people raise hands. Fine.